This right here is the Fusion champion for the month of June 2025. He's a Dwarf faction champion, and this is the only information we have about him. In terms of his graphic design and what it looks like, this is what you have. But in this video, I'm going to tell you all about his skill, his kit, when it's starting and everything, so you can decide whether you want to go for this fusion for the month of June or not. I'll tell you, for the first thing you need to know, this is going to be an old school fusion. You know, those ones where you have to pick up the rares, pick up the epics, and then fuse into the legendary, which is him. It's not going to be one of those fragment fusions, right? Where you get fragments of the champion. No, this is going to be an old school fusion. I don't know yet whether I start with rares or it's just going to straight to epic, but we're going to find out. Possibly it's to start with rares as old school fusion normally do. So this fusion is starting on the June the 5th. That's the first or the second information right there. This tells you that you have an entire one whole week or 1+ week to prepare. While they are giving this news ahead of time, maybe that's why the champion video and everything about him is not yet ready to show you guys, because this information is coming normally way ahead of time. We have not even seen a fusion warm-up event yet, and we're already telling you there's a fusion coming up. So this information is kind of new and too recent. That's why they don't have the champion turnaround video and the champion graphic and everything ready to show you guys. But we have his avatar, what it will look like when you're choosing him from the list of champions in game. So as you can tell, he's a Dwarf faction champion and he has beards and all that, fire coming out of his eyes, and that means he's going to be a damage dealer and he's going to be a Dwarf damage dealer. Those are the two things maybe you can tell from his avatar. Maybe HP Bond? I don't think so. But let me tell you some other information they gave us about this champion. First, what Playroom says about him, then I can decide. Or no, let me just go straight to the skit so I can decide before I focus on what Playroom says about him, so I don't go tell you guys based on what he said. This is my first impression of this champion, by the way. And Tholin, let me scroll up, Tholin Foulbeard, that is going to be his name, and he's a Legendary Force Affinity attack champion from the Dwarf faction. So the next thing you need to know is A1 attacks all enemies. AoE A1 is always good. Before attacking, it has a 25% chance of placing weaken debuff for 2 turns. An A1 that places weaken, a low chance though, but it can be booked up to a 35% chance, 50% chance of placing weaken before attacking on an A1 is good. Has a 50% chance of placing weaken debuff for 2 turns if the target is from Corrupted Alliance. So he's targeting champions from the Corrupted Alliance, a boss or a minion. It's going to be a 50% chance instead of a lower chance. So total of 25% chance plus 50 is going to be what? 75% chance if it's against bosses, if it's against a minion, or if it's against Corrupted Alliance. The effect cannot be resisted by enemies from Corrupted Alliance again and bosses or minions. So you might not need to build this champion with accuracy if you're going against a boss and he's the champion bringing a weaken for you. Grants an extra turn if a weaken debuff was placed on all enemies by this skill. Is it void? It's not void. It's going to be force affinity. So against the wrong affinity, you might not want to use that as an advantage. But if you are going against an affinity where you know he's going to place the weaken or just one boss, you might as well start with the A1 before you go with any of his skill. He grants an extra turn if a weaken debuff was placed on all enemies by this skill. That's a good A1. I've never seen an A1 grant an extra turn like this, but that's a good A1. This tells you that the rest of this champion's kit should also be good or even better than this. Let's keep going. On the A2, this skill attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit ignores 25% of the target's defense. If the target is a Corrupted Alliance, a boss, or a minion, each hit ignores 50%. So we can just assume 50% ignore defense if the target is Corrupted Alliance or bosses or minion. So cooldown on this skill is going to be 1, but it's on a 4-turn cooldown. That's a 3-turn cooldown. Standard for a single target hit like this. Each hit decreases the target's attack by 5%. Stacks up to 25% attack decrease for the target. Each hit also increases this champion's attack by 5%. Up to a 50% attack. So if you're going to use this champion against long battles or long content that takes a while to get done, you might get up to 50% more attack by the time he stacks up this one by 5% each time he uses it, right? Each hit. He hits 2 times, so in 5 turns he should be getting up to that 50% stacks of extra attack, or reducing the enemy's attack by 25% instead. All right, let's see the A3. I'm not that crazy about that A2. Let me say it. I thought the A2 would do more than just ignore defense, but that's all it does. It also increases his attack up to 50%, but that's all it does. The A2 does nothing else than that. All right, let's see if this A3 called Rapid Fury makes it even better. Attacks all enemies 2 times. Double hit on a A3 is good. Before attacking, places increased attack buff on this champion. His damage is based on attack. That's why he's boosting his attack and placing increased attack on himself, so he can do maximum damage, I guess. And for each critical hit landed on the first hit, increase the damage dealt on the second hit by 10%. So if he does crit hit on the first hit, increase the damage dealt on the second hit by 10%. The first hit is not the one that will do most of the damage, I guess, so it's the second hit that will get extra 10%. We'll ignore unkillable buff and shield buffs. So if they have unkillable, AoE unkillable ignore is good, because right now in the arena, meta, live arena or classic arena, you see a lot of those champions who place unkillable on themselves and survive a little bit longer. So he's gonna solve that. Not block damage though. Block damage is what we normally see these days, not even unkillable. Anyway, so whichever one you want to deal with, if it's unkillable, he's gonna be ignoring it, and the shield also ignored. That means he will do more damage. Now, I'm not also that super impressed by the Rapid Fury A3. I like the fact that it has double hits. I like the fact that it does increase the attack before he goes in for the damage. Hopefully that doesn't get him frozen if you have a Tholin in there in the enemy's wave. And then for the passive Evil's Nightmare, activates Dawnbreaker, which is gonna be the A2, no, the A1. A passive activates the A1. Every 5th turn this champion takes, he's gonna activate the A1. So I guess that makes him a little bit better than a normal legendary, because he's activating his A1 from a passive. It doesn't say there's a cooldown though, so it's just gonna happen every 5th turn he goes in with the A1. Enemies from the Corrupted Alliance, bosses and minions cannot land a critical hit on this champion. So that's a full counter from this Corrupted Alliance. Now, if you do not know, I have to go in there to the Corrupted Alliance and see which champions he's gonna be good against, because especially champions in the arena. That's Carnage. Let me see again. Cannot land critical hits on this champion. So it's not like they'll get weak hits. They'll not get weak hits. They're still gonna do damage to him. It's just not gonna be a critical damage. That's what it means. He's still gonna take damage from this Corrupted Alliance. So that's Carnage right there. I'm just looking for who else he can survive hits against now. Moti Mokab, maybe. That's about it for this faction. I'm not going to check epics. Undead Hordes. Heracles, maybe. Who else is he good against? Marshall. Some of this little Miss Annie and Vakanen. Blood Gorge. People don't usually use them in arena though. So what advantage does it really have over this Corrupted Alliance? I'm trying to look. Foley, maybe. The most useful champions in the arena right now, I'm not seeing them on this list. Maybe I should look towards Mythicals. The champions we see the most in the arena like right now, not Truat, not Xavier. Let's see. I've already checked Dark Elves. And finally, Night Revenant. Okay, there is Gaius. Not still gonna be a weak hit though. I'm not seeing who he has advantage over. Okay, Narcissus, King Narcissus is in there. And you have some Embrace is also useful or popular these days in arena. So those champions will get normal hits on him, not a weak hit. So it's still gonna be a kind of a damage in a way. So that's the passive right here. Increase ally attack in all battles by 30%. All battles ally aura is good. It's good. You will still rely on speed most of the time, or defense or other stuff. But if you need more attack, I guess you can put him in the slot if you're going slow or going second. Now, what do I make of this champion's skill from just reading it right now? I feel like for a old school legendary, his multipliers will look whether endgame players use him or not. His multipliers will really tell in the long run. What do I mean the multipliers? If this A2 hits as much as Thunder or as more harder than Thunder, he does have a double hit, but it's not like her own. I don't know how it's calculated yet, but we'll have to see this champion in battle before we tell whether this is going to be the next Thunder or it's just going to be another damage dealer that people get for AoE damage and not really anything special. There might be some content where Corrupted Alliance and bosses will land weak hits. I mean, we will land normal hits on him and no crit hits, where this can also be useful, not just only against Corrupted Alliance. You have to say bosses and minions. So let's take advantage of that if you're going to use this champion in those type of content. So that's what I think about him. Now let me go over to what Raid says about him from their own comments, from their own information they posted about this champion, so I don't just tell you my personal opinion about him and not tell you what the creators said. Alright, the first thing they said about him is that Tholin is a versatile damage dealer, well suited for both PvE and PvP. So they are hoping you use this champion in those type of 2 content, not just only arena. That's why they say it's also useful against bosses. He's also a top tier choice against Kurosa the Covacious, the ruthless limited time boss in Event Dungeon. So the Event Dungeon is not yet out though, but they're preparing this champion as the one that will deal with him. We're preparing for the Event Dungeon, right? So it's coming soon. So it's going to be a top tier choice against Kurosa the Covacious. It's not yet here, but we're preparing using him for that content. Okay. His A1 is an AoE attack with a chance of placing weakened debuff before hits that goes up to if the target is from Corrupted Alliance and minion. Tholin gets an extra turn if the weakened debuff is placed. His A2 and his A3. I've already talked about his kit. Let me see what else they say. His passive triggers A1 for bonus damage and an extra chance at an extra turn. So the passive can actually trigger the A1 to get an extra turn. So if it's not his turn and it's the 5th turn, he can just go in there with the passive and grant himself an extra turn with the passive. With the A1, if it lands the weaken on every person or every enemy. That's kind of good. Additionally, champions with Corrupted Alliance and all that cannot land critical hits on Tholin. So that's all they said about him. I thought they're going to tell us something different. All I hear from this is that he's going to be a PvE, PvP champion useful against Kurosa the Covacious. What other content can it be used in then? Not PvE, PvP. If we have other champions in this content already, is it going to still be used? Anyways, that's all the information we have about this new champion coming into Raid Shadow Legends. Remember, the date again is June the 5th. That's when this fusion officially launched in-game. But before then, you can decide to do some fusion prep and decide whether you want to go for this one or not. Also look forward to other content creators, tier 3 content creators who have access to the test server, so they can put out some videos about these champions in a damage test to see whether he's going to be worth all the effort or not. So maybe we might want to rely on that information before you decide. I just wanted to take a first look at him, give you this announcement of the fusion for the month of June that is coming. This is my first impression of him so far. My opinions about this champion is still like mid to go for him or not to go for him. But if I have nothing else better to spend my resources on, as you can see, I'm sitting on excess energy, I might just do this fusion just because I have time and energy. So besides that, he doesn't seem like the best fusion in the year 2025. It's not that in my books. It doesn't seem like he ranks up against those type of ratings right now in my book. So maybe we'll have to see him in game then to decide. What's your first impressions of Tholin? Judging by just his skill and his kit that was released, Tholin the Foulbeard, what's your first impression of him? Do you think he's going to be one that is good, worth going for, or one that you can easily skip? And I think my battery on my camera went down. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more daily Raid Shadow Legends content. Later, guys.